Right, hello everyone, and thank you very much for taking time out of your day to click on this video. And as you've probably read by the title, this video is one that will appeal to Leafs fans and most likely only Leafs fans. That's perfectly fine. As you can see from the jersey behind me, I'm a Leafs fan myself, but with the recent games that the Leafs have played, three straight losses, two against Vancouver, one against the Jets, and then one win against Vancouver, which wasn't convincing, not just because of how the Leafs played, but certainly also because of Connor Hellebuck's incredible performances. Um, it begged the question to me, why is Travis Dermott still getting played over Mikko Lehtonen? And here's my thought process over why I'm talking about Travis Dermott and not about Justin Hall or Zach Bogosian or any other defenseman. So, if we look at the Leafs defensive core, you've got the six main guys. That's pretty clear this season. You've got the first pairing of Brody and Morgan Riley, which they're untouchable unless an injury happens, or they are in desperate need of a rest. They're not getting scratched. And the same can be said about Jake Muzzin. And then on the second pair with Jake Muzzin, you have Justin Hall, who, let's face it, Justin Hall has been a big improvement this season. And although he has dropped down a little in the recent games, it's still a very serviceable defenseman that we've got on our hands. He, of course, had an incredible start to the season. People were making claims that he could be in contention for the Norris if the season ended after 15 games, which was a fair assessment. If the season ended after 15 games, he would have been one of the defensemen that could likely win the Norris. However, obviously, the season didn't end after 15 games, and he's dropped off a little, and that was to be expected. He was playing to such a great level where, well, the only way from there was down. And that's not me begrudging Justin Hall his talent, because what he's on the ice to do, he does it pretty well still, and it's still much better than it was last season. And then on the third pairing, you have Zach Bogosian and Travis Dermott. And Zach Bogosian was brought in to be muscle, to be tough. He has experience winning a Stanley Cup, going far into the playoffs. So that's something that the Leafs desperately need on the blue line, and that leaves Travis Dermott. And you could say, well, should Travis Dermott play over Mikko Lehtonen, or should he even play over Rasmus Sandin? And those are very fair questions. And the point I will make is for Mikko Lehtonen, because Rasmus Sandin is currently injured. Rasmus Sandin is still very young and hasn't proven himself in the NHL or in the KHL, which is still a much harder league than the AHL, whereas Mikko Lehtonen has, and not only on the KHL level, but also on the world stage level. So, if we look at Mikko Lehtonen, let's take a look at, we'll start with Travis Dermott. So, Travis Dermott, him playing is often referred to as the Travis Dermott experiment, which it's not a good sign, is it? He's played 181 career games over 4 seasons, including this one. He's got 10 goals, 32 assists for 42 points, and is a plus minus of 23. Now, in the grand scheme of things, for a mobile defenseman, which he is, or a defensive defenseman, that would be quite good, presumably. However, if you look at the evolution of those stats and how those stats are this season compared to the previous seasons, it's not good at all. So his first season, his rookie season, he played 37 games in 2017-18, had 1 goal, 12 assists for 13 points, and a plus minus of 16 with only 8 penalty minutes in these 38 games. It's fair to say that it was quite good. He averaged 15 minutes and 60. Average time on ice here says 15:60, so I suppose that's 16 minutes on Sportsnet. Thank you, Sportsnet, for making it vague. Anyway, first season averaged about 16 minutes, and it was pretty good as a 20-year-old. Showed lots of promise. I remember he was talked up as being a potential top 4, potentially even first-line defenseman, but only played 37 games, understandably. even though the Leafs defense was absolutely terrible, so could have played more. But he didn't. Second season, 34 games, so he played exactly, well, not exactly, but pretty much double the amount that he played the season before. This time with 4 goals and 13 assists for 17 points, so only 4 more points in 27 more games, plus minus of -5, and 22 penalty minutes. Now, the penalty minutes, 22 and 64 games, is not terrible. It's actually fine, especially if you average 17 minutes and 18 seconds like he did back then. Still then, Travis Dermott talked about as being a great player for the future, kind of like Ethan Bear and Evan Bouchard are now for the Oilers, except Bouchard, perhaps. I see more potential in Bouchard and Bear than I saw in Travis Dermott back then. Third season, 56 games, so that was last season. Obviously, the season cut short. 56 games, 4 goals, 7 assists for 11 points, a plus minus of 14, 37 penalty minutes, and 17 minutes and 19 seconds on the ice. So his ice time is going up. The number of games he plays on a regular basis is going up. His offensive output is going down. His penalty minutes are going up. It's not a great sign. And then during the playoffs, there's talk about Travis Dermott when he needs to renew his contract. There's talk about Travis Dermott leaving. People saying, trade Travis Dermott, get rid of him. The potential was there, but he's never going to fulfill it. And that's completely understandable. I was on the opinion that if you can re-sign Travis Dermott for a small fee, do so, but don't have him as a starting defenseman, especially since Mikko Lehtonen had been announced, and we'll go on to Mikko Lehtonen later. Then this current season, 24 games played, 1 goal, 0 assists for 1 point, and a -2 with an average of 12 minutes 36 on the ice, with Zach Bogosian as his partner. Now, the thing with Zach Bogosian is the first 2 games, Zach Bogosian was terrible, and people were running him out of town. But since then, Zach Bogosian has been a revelation. He's been excellent. He's done exactly what the Leafs have expected of him and what the fans have expected of him, and I can't complain about Zach Bogosian. Zach Bogosian has been a great addition to the squad, like TJ Brodie has, and I'm very happy with Zach Bogosian. So don't scratch him unless he needs a rest. Travis Dermott's time has gone down by nearly 5 minutes compared to last season. Now, of course, that is because of the addition of TJ Brodie. That is because of the addition of Zach Bogosian. But if he is a defenseman that is showing that much promise, why is he getting less time then? Why is he not still getting 17 minutes? I don't understand Sheldon Keefe on this matter. How old is he, Travis Dermott now? 24? Is he going to turn 25 soon, or did he just turn 24? He'll turn 25 in December, so he just turned 24. It's not old for an NHL player. It's quite young still, and he could still develop, but the window for development is so short that it's basically a foregone conclusion that this is the finished product that we have on our hands. And there's nothing inherently wrong with Travis Dermott. He doesn't excel at anything in particular. He's not particularly big or strong or fast, or he doesn't read the game particularly well. And there's nothing inherently wrong with him, except for one thing, which is under pressure, he isn't good enough. If you look at the stats this season, Travis Dermott this season has 14 giveaways, was it? I can't find the stat now, sorry. Right here. This season, 14 giveaways, 3 takeaways in 24 games. He doesn't hit much, only 18 hits in 24 games. He doesn't block that much, 17 blocks in 24 games. I mean, it's a strange and peculiar case, because you want that defenseman to still grow and to become the player that he is expected to become, but why not put him on the minors? Because if we look at Mikko Lehtonen now, let's take a look at Mikko Lehtonen. And let's take a look at Mikko Lehtonen's pedigree. Mikko Lehtonen played at the Olympics, which, well, it's 2018 Olympics when NHL players weren't allowed at the Olympics, but it's experience on a grand stage with some good players, evidently, and he then went on to have his seasons and to show himself to the world in the KHL. So it's definitely not something that you can say played a role in his development, but it's not something that you can just discard either. Mikko Lehtonen won World Championship gold. In 2019, Mikko Lehtonen with Finland went to the World Championship in Slovakia, took home the gold, made the All-Star team. I'd like to just rattle off the stats, but the thing is, I'm so frustrated with it that when I think of these stats, when I tell these stats to you, it's baffling to me that he's not playing. Then in the 2019-2020 season, he's got his first season in the KHL with Jokerit. He plays 60 games in his first season in the KHL, so you have to remember the adaptation period that people talk about. Yeah, that then 60 games, 17 goals, 32 assists for 49 points, only 20 penalty minutes. That's one penalty every 3 games in the KHL. He had a plus 26 that year, was 6th league-wide in scoring, not 6th on his team, not 6th for defensemen, 6th league-wide in scoring he was. He had, and then this season, before the NHL started, he played 17 games, had 8 goals and 9 assists for 17 points. Now, it's important to remember half the NHL was after him. Half the NHL was after him. And it's weird because he won the KHL Defenseman of the Year. He won the Defenseman of the Month 3 times in a row. So the argument that the KHL is a different league than the NHL is true, and the KHL is certainly not as hard as the NHL. That probably is also true. But as we've seen in recent years, the KHL is a great stepping stone. We've seen that with this season Kirill Kaprizov. We've seen that with Artemi Panarin, with lots of goalkeepers. If you think of Sorokin, Askarov now, Georgiev, Shesterkin, who all played in the KHL before coming to the NHL, and young players who get drafted at the age of 18 or 19 into the NHL, often, if they are Russian, have already played in the KHL. And it's the same with young players who come from the Swedish league. Sometimes they're just thrust into the NHL like that, and that's it. Their adaptation period is basically none. Which for some it's different for young players than it is for a player like Mikko Lehtonen, who is 27 years of age. And you would expect a guy that's 27 years of age to adapt more easily. But he's not given that chance. That's the biggest problem with Mikko Lehtonen's NHL stint so far. He's played 9 games. He's got 3 assists. He's a +1, 4 penalty minutes, with an average of 11.52 on the ice. Now, 9 games, that's basically he plays 1 game every 2 weeks. Pretty much every 10 days, one would say. Some of these games were instead of Travis Dermott, and a few of them have come when he replaced Jake Muzzin, because Jake Muzzin was unavailable because of his broken jaw. And we haven't seen him in 5 games, 6 games it is. We lost 3 straight in a row. Now the Leafs have won against Winnipeg 4-3, still conceded 3 goals, which shouldn't have happened, with countless defensive errors. Countless. Travis Dermott leads to a goal directly with a giveaway. Justin Hall misses the puck on a pass from Austin Matthews behind Connor Hellebuck's net, and the Winnipeg Jets counter-attack and score from there. It's defensive issues that's a problem for the Leafs still. It's much better than in years gone, but it's still a problem. And Sheldon Keefe is persisting with the same defensive lines over and over and over again. Now, I don't have a problem with wanting to install confidence in your players. We saw that with Jimmy Vesey, although I had a problem with that, obviously. 13 games without a point, and he continued to persist with Jimmy Vesey when we have Robertson, Galchenyuk, Brooks, Anderson, and all. But that's a whole different conversation, right? Sheldon Keefe likes to persist with players, and I'm not against it, but 181 games into his NHL career, Travis Dermott hasn't really shown anything of note. And if anything, his progression and his output defensively and offensively has gone down since, I would say, second season. And on a team that is better defensively and better offensively, because forwards are also helping out defensively. We see that with Austin Matthews. It's just not good enough. And I'm sorry, I want Travis Dermott to succeed, but he shouldn't be in that top 6. It should be Mikko Lehtonen over Travis Dermott. Is he going to get that spot next game? Maybe. Nothing indicates that he will. Nothing indicates that he won't. But I'm not getting my hopes up. I'm expecting Mikko Lehtonen not to re-sign after the season. And I wouldn't begrudge him if he doesn't re-sign, or if he even asks for a trade now, which will be waived, and he gets picked up by another NHL team and ends up being a great top 4 defenseman, maybe even a first pairing defenseman as a second guy on that first pairing. That could be what Mikko Lehtonen ends up being. But if he isn't given a good number of games in a row, I'm talking about 5, 6, 7 games in a row, where he has 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 minutes to show what he is capable of, then what's the point? Especially now, we're right in the middle of the season. Players are going to need a rest. That was evidently clear with the 3 losses in a row. Players need a rest. Players who aren't performing shouldn't be rewarded with an automatic spot. I don't care who your name is. I don't care if you're a defenseman or a forward. But that's not the case with the Leafs this season so far. We see Jimmy Vesey not performing, and then Travis Boyd is scratched. We see Travis Dermott not performing, and Sandin can't get a spot. Lehtonen can't get a spot. We see Freddie Anderson letting in easy goals on some occasion, and he's still keeping a spot. It's riddling my mind, but I think I've said all that I need to say. I could go on about Mikko Lehtonen needing a spot over Travis Dermott, about him not being given a chance. I could go on about everything I've already said, but I would be repeating myself, and this video would be half an hour long. So I'm going to end the video here. If you've enjoyed the video, please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel. Let me know what you think of the situation in the comments down below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Why not? Keep it friendly in the comments with each other as well. And I'll talk to you very soon.